Okay, so let's kick it off here. I just wanted to make a couple announcements first. Next month, we have Dirk Neumann on. I think Dirk is on. My wife and I are going up to Paso. We're going to go to Absolution Cellars and do the kick off the virtual from there. So we'll be there on the 6th for the weekend, and going to the Copia pickup party is what we're going to that weekend. Also, I wanted to tell everybody that tomorrow we're going to roll out. We're going to roll out our first ever, our inaugural party in Paso Robles, and it happens to be going to be held at Dresser Winery. He's got a great estate villa there that's perfect for what we're going to do. We can only have 50 members join, and we're going to be selling reservations to that, and we'll roll it all out tomorrow. We're really excited about this. We're going to have four winemakers. I had four winemakers. Kory, the host, Kory Burke, and Orion Stang from Emersey, and Chris Eberly, Detente, and Verinder Sahi from Copia.
That's not plugged in.
So you're going to get 4 wine tastings.
You know the purple one with my plug-in?
Let me
Hey,
mute everybody.
You should be able to go in and just mute the group and then open it back up when you want to.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it right now.
When is the event?
November 19th. It'll all come out tomorrow. We'll put all the dates and everything up. It's a Saturday. It's going to be an afternoon event at Dresser Winery. So we'll get you all the details tomorrow. Just wanted to let you know since you were on here tonight. Kind of exciting.
Right away.
It's going to be catered, and appetizers, buffet. We just have a limited number of spaces available. So all the details will come out tomorrow. Just want to let you know tonight.
What?
The other I wonder why I can't mute everybody. Huh?
If you're not talking right now, maybe if you don't mind, just go ahead and mute yourselves, and then when we get to Q&A, we'll just have you unmute.
Yeah, right. Let's see. The other thing is, I thought, depending on the number of people, I was going to suggest that if you have some questions when we go to Jason and Kory, that maybe you throw them in the chat bar on the side, and we'll call on you, and then we can ask, you can ask your question. And if it doesn't get too large, it won't really matter. So right now we thought we'd have about 25 to 30 people. We're not there yet, so I'm not too concerned about that. You just raise your hand, and when we get to the Q&A portion, that's great. I will if we lose anybody, I assume maybe you got power turned off and you went dark over that. I wanted to say something about Kory real quick. We met him in the first time. My wife and I have been longtime members of Gelfand. We knew Len and went there fairly often. We were members of the club for a long time, and it was all big reds, and we liked that. And Len was a great guy. But Kory, basically started getting involved with Len. What, about 2017, Kory? Did you get involved?
So I met Lynn, well, I got involved in the wine industry in 2017 when we came up here in 2016. December was my 40th birthday. And my wife and I,
I'm going to hold you off on that. I'm just going to introduce you, and then Jason will ask you all the questions. Anyways, we went there in 2019 and met him for the first time. He was great. And I mentioned on Facebook that we tasted, I asked him, we had this great bottle of Petite Cab week and a half ago, and I put it up on the page. And I asked Kory, I go, was this your wine? Because I didn't know where Len started or where Kory started, where Len ended. And he told me, he goes, it was Len just assisted with the harvest, and that was it. And he's been out of the picture since then.
Yeah.
So I just want to, does a great wine tasting. You should go there sometime and give his wine a try. And that's all I have for you. So what I'm going to do is turn it over to Jason, and he's going to introduce our guest, Kory Burke.
Thanks, Mike. As we get started, usually when we got smaller groups and it's starting to pick up a little bit now, we will sometimes go around and ask everybody where they're from and what they're drinking. It's getting a little more difficult to do that, but if you got something that you're drinking tonight and you want to share it, just go ahead and hold it up real quick for those that are on live video. Oh, Vinny Colado, some Dressers. Hey, Kory. All right. Well, first of all, happy International Cabernet Day. That influenced the direction I went a little bit here, Kory. I was, debating between the Tempranillo or this one, and since this is 50% cab, this was my choice tonight. Turned out to be a great choice, by the way. So welcome everybody. Mike obviously shared some exciting news that we'll get some more details to tomorrow, but we're certainly looking forward to that. We're a few months into planning it already. Kory's been a big help of that, as it's going to be located on his beautiful estate property. So more to come there. And that's exciting news. So welcome everybody. Welcome Kory and any of your guests that you've got on site with you. Are they sitting in front of you or behind you?
No, they're hiding.
Oh, they're camera shy.
We had a bunch of people that were supposed to come, and everybody kind of bailed generally because it's 9,000 degrees here. Literally, it's super cool in here, honestly. But
everybody's wanting to stay home in Paso this week. So, Kory, we'd like to kind of get started by just learning about you, Kory the person, before we dive into you, Kory the winemaker. I know a little bit about your past and your time in tech and sports and all that cool stuff. But if you could give just kind of a little overview for the group of some of your past experiences before you dove into wine.
Yeah, so University of Kansas does not have a very good viticultural school. It's great at finding farmers to grow corn, I think. I don't know. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, which I think is hilarious that I'm from St. Louis, now live in San Luis Obispo. I grew up as a baseball player. My path, I thought, was to be a professional baseball player, but again, like 1 in a billion people get that far with it. But it did take me to college originally. I got to Louisiana State, same place where Gary Eberle went, but he's way smarter than I could ever hope to be. Started out playing baseball there, got hurt, couldn't play anymore, transferred to Kansas just to do something different and became a college rower. And that was literally what I thought about, was like, what is the sport that I can do that I could test myself in something that's very hard. And I think that's what I always tend to gravitate towards is, are things that are really difficult, including having no idea how to make wine. So why not buy a winery when you don't know how to make wine? In theory, is where my path kind of went. I started off as a journalism major when I got to the University of Kansas because I love writing. I'm a good writer, but I also didn't want to be a reporter, and it ended up leading me into sports. It ended up being leading me to a path of sports marketing, which was the best job ever in theory until I found wine. I got to work for the Kansas City Royals, the Atlanta Braves, Hawks, and Thrashers. New York Mets. I ended my sports career as an assistant athletic director at a university, and then negotiating AT&T's sports sponsorships and venue sponsorships as a consultant for them. And it was great. I got to go to every big event without actually having to do all the dirty work. But for the first 8 years of my sports life, I was going to every single game, which sounds fun, except for they don't really pay you much to go to those games and work your butt off. There's a very blue collar and then upper echelon white collar. There's no like kind of mid-level. If you can stay in it for 20, 25, 30 years, you can advance through in theory, but I just got bored doing that. I think it just became monotonous to me. And I'm somebody who likes a challenge. So when the market went to hell, kind of like a little bit like right now in 07, 08, I fell into tech. I tell a story for the people that come here and taste with me, and this is actually pretty darn true, meaning it's 100% true. I had a really crazy breakup in 2006 with a girl in Atlanta. That's where I was living at the time. She ended up initiating the breakup, gets a job at AT&T, making a good amount of money. It is what it is. And I ended up falling into tech. And I took the job in tech solely because of two reasons. One, I needed a new challenge for sure. But two, because I needed something to show myself that I was worth what I can do. And so that job in tech paid me 10% more than what she was making at AT&T. So even though I never told her that I was making more, mentally in my head, I'm like, oh, I won that breakup 2 years before. But it was also, I was ready for a challenge. And I really just went into it and had no idea what I was doing. My bosses were great. They wanted somebody with a fresh point of view, and that led to that company getting acquired by somebody. And, I made no money off of that, but I learned a lot from, acquisitions and what have you. Moving to another company that got acquired, again, did a terrible job negotiating on my end at the time, made nothing off of it, but then fell into another company that got bought by Adobe. And so for 7 years, I worked for Adobe, the Photoshop people, on a different product, basically building a product that streams video. If you've ever watched anything besides YouTube and Netflix, it's a product that my group of 50 people had a chance to build and sold to the world. And I had the opportunity to be the very first salesperson for that. And I loved it because I was terrible at it at first. Had no idea what I was doing. I was working with just super smart, kids that were coding all day long. And it was an opportunity to feel uncomfortable and make me learn. And then in time, I ended up being our director of sales, had an expense account, and I'd have to go out to restaurants. And I loved wine from the time I studied abroad in Australia in 1999 and learned a lot then. And I just realized and I love science too. And I just realized this is fun. I could really apply the science of the science side that I really enjoy. And, the passion of wine and learning about wine, just the romanticism of wine to a day job somehow. And so my wife and I, when we turned every year for my birthday in December, we would go to another wine country. And it was always, always in California. It was always Sonoma, Napa, or we went to Temecula a couple times too. But I'd never heard of Paso. And then a neighbor of mine introduced me to some Le Cuvier Cab 2013 one day. And I tasted it. I'm like, holy crap, this is really good. Had no idea what this area was and that it was in driving distance of where we lived. And so we went up there, visited literally for one night, stayed downtown, felt like we were walking around in a Hallmark Channel movie, unbeknownst to us. But we soon to find out that my wife was pregnant with our first kid, our daughter Kaia, who I remember seeing one of the fanatics posting a picture of the wine that we make named after her. And I think we both, being Midwesterners, me from St. Louis, her from Cincinnati, just saw the niceness in Paso, and just the willingness to going in the grocery store and somebody saying hi to you as you're going down an aisle is normal. But living, we had at that time in 2011 moved to LA, and that's not what you did down in Redondo Beach, although we loved it down there, just not what happened. So one thing just led to another. We just realized, my wife's an architect by trade, and she always makes us buy crappy homes to live in. And in time, we turn them into something nicer. It takes a lot of years to make them nicer. And we live in, where we live downtown Paso right now is not the best. but it's going to be beautiful one day because my wife's wonderful at what she does. But Paso ended up being like the perfect place for us both to finally chase our passions. For her, it was architecture and renovations and flipping houses. And she still says her favorite smell in the world is freshly cut 2x4 wood. And for me, it was wine. And my goal was just to find a winery where I could, learn to how to make wine and work there at some point, knowing that we were always going to be working. And then, we kind of got a little aggressive. So in 2017, we had told an agent when we were up there we stayed there for a week, 16 going to 17, found a real estate agent day 2, just said, if you could find us a property that needs a lot of love, that'd be great. And we mean a lot of love. And then facetiously, I threw out there, if it's got a vineyard on it, that'd be wonderful. Thinking my backyard in Redondo Beach is 300, 400 square feet. Nobody has a backyard with a vineyard. And she ended up finding us 2 acres with 1.5 acres of zin planted on it. So my wife, being super pregnant, she was 5 days away from having our daughter at that point, and not of right mind to control me and pull me away from making crazy decisions. I drove up to Paso, saw our original property, said we got to do it. The house was perfect for her. The vineyard was going to be great for me to try to do and learn something different. And so we just went for it. And so in 17, we bought that little property, started making zin from there, had to renovate the vineyard, found a guy to show me how do you keep the vineyard alive? I had no idea. And then in 18, we found Gelfand Vineyards through a friend of a friend who was making his wine here. And I just needed to find somebody that was going to be patient with me, let me do all the work, do work, any work, honestly, any work. And in 18, I think he saw me as somebody, he came from insurance, had no idea what he was doing originally, just had the bank account to build this property. But he was ready to retire, and was ready to stay down in Palm Desert and play golf and just call me and say, hey, go up there. We got to do this, this, and this. And it just turned into, it was always a passion on the drinking of wine side, but the making of wine side, that was something totally different to me. Unfortunately, I found a mentor who was just crazy enough to say, you know what, just do what you want to do. Here's what I do. Let's go with this. And so in 18, I found this place, started making wine, or making the Gelfand Vineyards wines then. And then our zin here as well. And then in 19, took over, started taking all the responsibilities of making the wine, and officially took over the property in 20. So there we go. That's my story.
All right. Well done. I gotta rewind a little bit, just out of curiosity, based off where you grew up and where you worked early professionally. Are you a Royals fan or a Cardinals fan?
That's easy. Cardinals through and through. Here's the best part, though. So I mean, I still, weirdly enough, so my first year at the Royals was in 2000. My fellow interns there, one heads up PR, the other one heads up community relations. They're still there. And I had a chance back in 2000 to meet Brett Saberhagen, who, if you don't know who Brett Saberhagen is, he is borderline Hall of Fame pitcher, just wasn't quite there, but 2 Cy Young Awards, was an amazing pitcher in the 80s and early 90s especially. And then I had a chance to do a tasting with one of our wine club members about a year and a half ago. And as we're going through it, our tastings are pretty hands-on. We're no frills. We are, if you're looking for a boutique vineyard, you're looking at 50% of the full-time team. My wife and I run this place. We do have a full-time kind of vineyard manager, technically. I got Ron, who's never going to come on camera, I'm sure. Ron helps me out with tasting room part-time. And I got a wine club manager that helps me out on part-time too. But you're looking at the smallness of this place. So I was handling 100% of our tastings for about the first year and a half. And we're going through the tasting. I like to start with the wines in theory that I hope people like. And then as I learn what they tell me what they like, or they describe how they react to our wines, I kind of adjust our tasting as we go on the fly. And I just remember one of the guys there at one point saying something very cocky, very full of himself. And I looked at it, I was like, holy crap, are you effing Brett Saberhagen? And just, I was in the middle of describing something. He looks at me, he's like, I may be. So Brett Saberhagen lives here in Paso, Lake Nacimiento, really nice guy. Also baseball player. Again, as a kid growing up playing baseball in the 80s and 90s, especially, hero of mine, being in St. Louis and him being with the Royals and a bunch of other teams too. Kind of fun to really sit down with him. And then I remember the very first time I got a text saying, like, "Hey man, can I stay at your house this weekend, your vacation rental, whatever?" Like it's fun. But so for me, 100%, it's always the Cardinals. 11 World Series, second to the Yankees. That's it. I'm stoked about that, but supportive of the Royals.
As a diehard Yankee fan, Brett Saberhagen was a hell of a pitcher, man. He
Yeah, he
did-
was.
wow. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
That's a great story, Kory. And as a Cubs fan, it breaks my heart a little bit, but look, it takes a lot of courage just to admit in public that you're a Cubs fan.
True. You're a mere 100 years away from your next World Series. So you're
Right.
fine.
Hey, if it's 100, it's a shorter gap than the last time.
108.
I had to become a Royals fan because my cousin's boy starting first baseman for the Royals right now. So
And he's doing well.
He's a rookie. He's doing good.
So
Yeah, he's doing.
yeah.
Well,
So
Nick,
on that
yeah.
note, Kory, in what little off time you have, what some favorite pastimes for you?
Well, right now, no off time whatsoever. Since taking this over 2.5 years ago, I've just immersed myself in this place. We had to do a lot of renovations. It needed a lot of love. The old owner was a wonderful winemaker, just, was kind of ready to be done with the whole wine game. It's a hard game to play. So it's been a lot of renovations. I personally have replaced 3,000 feet of drip lines just in the backyard and the front yard of the vacation rental house here. Not even in the vineyard. I've done a bunch of that too, but that's just in there. So I guess my pastimes are inadvertent gardener, is what I would say. But I've done 3 Ironman triathlons now too. So again, I like putting myself in positions that I should not do well in and not succeed in, I guess. I'm missing doing that. It's been 2.5, 3 years. It's been 3 years since my last one. And hopefully we're getting ready to do another one next year. So I enjoy doing that. I still love baseball. Before we jumped on here, one of the first things I did here was put in internet down the barrel room and a TV so that we could, that was a hell of a way to avoid getting on the screen, Ron. Ron's doing some windowing to get through here. You can walk behind.
Come on, Ron. Enjoy yourself in one of those comfortable seats you see behind Kory.
So it's that, and I've got an amazing wife and now 5.5-year-old daughter who is my equal in a lot of different ways, and a couple of dogs too that are great. So it's really about, So I mean, for me, it's if I could not do this, I would do Ironmans often, I think, and play baseball, and more so wiffle ball would be great too.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
All right. So when you're not drinking wine, what's your beverage of choice? What's your adult beverage of choice that isn't wine?
So I'm going to be an anomaly a little bit here. If anybody asks me what beer I'm drinking during harvest, I will say Cabernet. I'm probably the only winemaker in Paso that doesn't drink beer. I barely drink beer, and I think it's because I burned myself out on IPAs years ago. That being said, I'm a wonderful bourbon and whiskey drinker. I'm huge into those. I can't tell you how many club members or now club members or friends of club members that have come and taste it with me. Thanks, Ron. Ron poured me a little bit of my Lejour in my Everly Winery glass.
Cheers.
Because I don't have Dresser Winery glasses yet. Chris at Daytime, he's a winemaker at Everly. He's a buddy of ours, and he's my consultant on our winemaking too. So he's giving me classes, which I appreciate. But yeah, I just for me, it would be a Boulevardier. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So it's a Negroni, not gin. I love bitter, which is probably why I like a lot of different kind of wines that are kind of off kilter at times too. But bourbon, it's usually 2 parts bourbon, 1 part Campari, 1 part sweet vermouth. I usually go 3 parts bourbon, 1 part Campari and like a splash of vermouth. Yeah, that's my jam right there. Bourbon and whiskeys. That's it. Burn my mouth off. Great.
So during harvest, when all the other winemakers are drinking beer, and I've heard this expression over and over and over, that it takes a lot of great beer to make great wine. It takes a lot of beer to make great wine.
I drink a lot of wine. I drink a lot of wine. I'm Irish. One, I'm a great drinker, so it's inherently built in. The natural offering that I have in me. I feel like, I'm 4 years into making wine. 5 years, I guess, maybe if I really pushed it on some level, but 4 years. And, Paso is such a wonderful community that I could call up most anybody and just say, like, I have a question. What do I do? This makes no sense to me. What would you do? It's why I begged Chris at Everly to help me out. Also, his daughter is my daughter's best little friend, so he doesn't want to see us homeless. So I wanted to lean on that for sure and getting him to help me out as a consultant. But Paso is such a unique community that you can call nearly everybody. I stole some sacks and barrels to make wine in this year as well, because I was like, I want to learn, is it the barrel? What's he doing? What's Justin doing? It makes things even better. So I've got some of those too. But Paso is just a neat sharing community. So for me, beer just doesn't do it. I'm not going to learn enough from there. I think I probably have 15 years of learning in wine. And I think a lot of the winemakers here probably feel like they, 5 to 7, they're good to go. But for me, there's an insane amount of really good wine here. How can I go out and say I'm making great wine in Paso without understanding what everybody else is doing? And then more so, there's been a big move towards used barrels and using more French barrels and some other kind of off-kilter barrels as well. So like I need to find French wines and European wines and things that are a little bit different where they can push the envelope on some level. Nobody can push the envelope like Paso does. So I find those weird wines. I had a bottle of Vinho Verde from Portugal last night, which is a really crazy area of Portugal where their white wines tend to have a little bit of bubbles in them, a little bit of effervescence, almost like drinking like a soda, but not as sweet by any means. So I just drink a crap ton of wine. No beer.
Vinho Verde was from southern Portugal, though, right?
It is. No, I think it's northeast.
Oh, really?
I think.
Did you get it from the Douro region, or?
No, it's northeast of Douro.
Oh,
I
wow.
think. A month into learning about it, so I could be totally wrong and mostly making it up, which is what I usually do.
No, I the only Vinho Verde I had in Portugal was near Lisbon, so it was kind of in the south part of Portugal anyway. I'm sure they have it in other regions. So you're more wine than beer during harvest. I think that's cool. I think that's unique. Do you recall the first wine that got you into wine? The first wine that really made you think about wine different?
2 of them. And I will say though, for harvest. So Mauricio, he's our vineyard manager. He's the one, so we have a wine called El Rendon that we named after him because I did not want him to leave me. So it's named after his familial last name. I always buy him a bunch of Modelo, so I'll end up having a couple of those. But I will find it's harvest when I'll have like 1 or 2 bottles of Dogfish Head 90 minute. So I'll always find like a little bit for that one. Again, I make big, bold red wine, so it's a big ass bold beer too. So I think maybe that's where my palate goes. So for me, there were 2 wines. So I studied abroad in Australia in 1999. I went to a winery called Seppelts. Now it's called Seppelts Field. And I had a late harvest Riesling from, I think it was 97 late harvest Riesling, I think then. And I just thought it was really good, which is weird because right now we're making our very first white wines this year. But it stuck out to me. And I was also the only person on that trip that enjoyed red wines. So I got into ports, I got into some cabs, I got into Shiraz, which is probably why I really enjoy. So I'm drinking right now our Cab Syrah blend called Cabaret. And for 20 plus years, I've always enjoyed Syrah. So it was that one, but then that was like what got me. That was like that's the crack, right? That's the one where like here the first hits for free. And then it was 15, 20 years later, I went to a winery in Napa called Realm Cellars. run by a guy named Juan Mercado.
Who is now in Paso.
And now he has Rise Wines. He's left, sort of left. I think he still has some vested interest, I'm sure, but he's doing nothing with Realm. But he made an amazing blend called the Bard. It just blew my mind. And I had another one the other night. I'm sad the pandemic made me drink through all those that I've been holding on to forever because they're amazing. But I also had an opportunity to think or learn, did I think those were good wines then, or were they actually good wines? And man, they were wonderful. So that got me into thinking about, well, can I do this as my retirement one day and maybe find an acre in Sonoma? No, I don't have the bank account to do it. I learned that for sure, which is why I found Paso. And then I realized that Paso doesn't buy Napa grapes or Sonoma grapes. Sonoma Napa buy Paso grapes.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, well, crap, why would I do that down or there? So it was Realm, the Bard, 2013 was the one that really taught me about California blend reds that just changed not even my outlook. I just had no idea. It opened up a lot for me.
But initially, did I hear this right? That it was really a dessert white wine?
Yep.
Wow. That's
it was. That winery is really cool. They've been around for 150 years or so. You could go down there. It's kind of in the middle of Adelaide and Melbourne on the west coast of Australia. But you could actually, it's more in Adelaide. It's right, southern part of Adelaide. You could actually go in there and you could be 140 years like Ron. And, and you could ask to taste your birth year out of the barrel. If you literally go in there and have 100-year-old wine out of their barrel. Now it's going to cost you $300 to taste it, I'm sure, but it's got a lot of history. It's a wonderful winery. It's beautiful. It also was one of those, when people come to Paso, the very first places they reach out and say, like, I love Justin, I love Austin, I love Dow, I want to go to those places. And they're great. And especially Austin is great. Local boy done good. But they have beautiful facilities, right? Like just the romanticism, the everything is beautiful about those. And that's what got me as well when I went down there. Seppelts was amazing. It was beautiful. And so I started realizing the correlation between what I learned down there 20 plus years ago. And then when I found Paso, I'm like, all right, I don't have the budget to do that, but like, can I somehow be part of Paso and create something unique and different? What's missing? What's the high touch experience is missing from, most wineries, even in Paso still. I don't know, it just turned me on to Paso and everything that we do here for sure. Yeah. It was Late Harvest Riesling. Thanks for calling me out on that. And so we're going to make our very first white this year. We're making a Viognier, although I did make a Late Harvest Sauvignon Blanc for a neighbor last year. I'm not going to lie, it turned out really good. I had to MacGyver it through. I didn't have the right equipment to do it, but I figured out how to do it thanks to Chris and Everly kind of guiding me. But we're doing a Viognier, and we're also going to do a Rosé of Grenache, also thanks to Chris for helping.
Nice. So tell us about, I'm going to transition a little bit to more specific to your winery now. Start with the name. A lot of times names are easy to figure out. But there's no direct line from the name of your winery to your name or a combination of you and your wife or anything like that. So tell us, where did Dresser come from?
Yeah, it's been forever driving to Gelfand Vineyards at 5530 Dresser Ranch Place and never thought about it. And, my last name's Burke. No knock against my mentor and his last name, but, Gelfand, not a great winery name. If I had another friend of mine called Gandalf Winery, that was going to anger me to no end. I had some, a couple times, Ron and I hosted a couple of, little toasty ladies that came in looking for golf land and thinking they're going to play a little bit of putt-putt golf too. And I promised Lynn, Gelfand, the old owners, that if they wanted, so he had daughters or granddaughters rather that are now one's in college, the other one's I think a year away or about to go into college. And if they ever wanted to make wine, he wanted them to have their name back. I am all about karma. I am happy to give them their name back. And so I don't have to have that bad karma for sure. That being said, if he had an amazing French or Italian last name, I might have fought it a little bit. But he gave us the name for 5 years, and I just kind of quickly realized, all right, it takes us 12 to 15 months to sell out of our wine. And just the timing of everything, and when we bottle, when we do this and that, whatever, it's kind of a 3-year decision when you make a name change for what we do, specifically towards the white or red wines. And I just kind of, every day I would come in and just think like, what else could we name this to? And then one day I just kind of realized, okay, Dresser, there's got to be a story behind this area. And then what my head goes to, because I'm a little offbeat in my marketing thoughts, I started thinking like, what if I did a wine called Cross Dresser? We name it Dresser, our winery's Dresser, but we do a wine called Cross Dresser. And I pick a grape early and then I pick it late. And then I blend them together. And I started thinking that would be really fun to do. And I just kind of, I could do a French wine, a French style wine. We're friends with the Close Céline people. And I know I could beg Guillaume and Céline over there to show me, what would you do for a French style wine? And I could call it Dressier, throw an I in there after the double S's. Paso's a very neat giving community for people that I feel like I could con them in to help me on that one a little bit. And I just, Dresser just kind of made sense. And I love a sense of place. So, if you look at the board and people talk about terroir and the history and all that kind of stuff, Gelfand had a nice history for 20 years, but it was built on, somebody else's last name. And I wanted him to have his name back. I wanted his family to be able to do whatever they wanted to do, even if they want to get back into wine. They need to have their name back. They earned it. They deserve it. And so for me, there had to be something what the Gelfand was originally thinking of when he planted here. Didn't really think about Dresser, but he had to think of something. Ironically enough, so we changed our name in February officially to Dresser Winery by Gelfand Vineyards. The by Gelfand Vineyards is our transitionary phase. Eventually that will go away, probably next year or the year after. So the Gelfands, have a free and clear movement towards their own personal last name. And so I had a club member, and that very first day reach out to me and say, hey, can I grab a bottle of Zin? He loves our Zin. A bottle of Zin to take to my friend who's actually a member of, she's the granddaughter of the Dresser family. I was like, okay, I want to know about this. Like, I feel like there has to be a Dresser family, but I have no idea. So it turns out there are two families in our little area, the Dressers and the Dunnings. The Dressers had about 3,000 acres of land. The Dunnings had about the same as well. I don't know if it was, a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure what the change was, but they came together originally to build out a cattle ranching business. The Dressers were from Wisconsin. The Dunnings were from the Midwest as well, which I also like because I'm a Midwestern kid myself. Came together, bought all this land to raise cattle. The Dunnings wanted to run their cattle. They wanted running cattle, and so they bought basically land about like 2 miles away from where we are, straight through downtown, which is flat as as could be, as flat as a board. The Dressers wanted cattle, grazing cattle, which is great for a hilly land. And so the Dressers held on to their 3,000 acres and divided everything up, and the Dunnings moved on. Now they have, as I understand it, there is a Dunning vineyard, and there's some relation to them as well. Obviously, generations beyond. So I've met the lady. She's writing a biography of her family. There's actually an exhibit that's about to happen at downtown, the History Museum in downtown Paso, about the Dressers, and I'll have our wine there too. I was hopeful there was history to it. It was a shot in the dark, honestly. And I just love the name, and I'm dying to do a wine called Cross Dresser because it's hilarious. So we'll see one day.
That's super interesting. So for those that don't know, your property is on, the address is a Dresser address, which was
Dresser Ranch Place.
Based off the original property that the Dresser family owned. Then if I'm following that correctly. Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. I had no idea.
And it's literally 3/4 of a mile, basically, the entrance to Dresser Ranch Place from Sculptera. And then we're 1.5 miles from Cass. So we're near perfectly in the middle. So there's some things I'm trying to work with them too. And then also there's another winery that's about 1/2 mile away called Rasmussen as well, where you could hit, like I remember I've been a part of the Fanatics now for quite some time, thanks to Mike getting me in there. And people saying, well, how many wineries can I hit? Which ones are walk-ins or whatever? And you could literally hit Cass, Sculptera, and man, Cass is doing an amazing job blowing out all the different events. They started the same year that Gelfand originally started too, and we were meant to be a small boutique place. Cass was meant to be just like a whole encompassing experience with amazing lunch, by the way. That's like the best place for lunch on the east side. Cass, Sculptera, us, and Rasmussen, and not have to drive more than 3 miles. And they're great wineries, great experiences across the board. And so some stuff that we're trying to work together and put together where people we need to raise the profile of the east side more. I know people say they love west side wines. I do too. But if they're making a big, bold anything, they're buying it from us on the east side. Guarantee, full stop. I can tell you how many acres that Dow owns, Jay Lord, Justin, all these kids own so much land on the east side. The reason is because right now we're sitting at 108 degrees right now, right outside my door, because we have the ability to build big, bold red grapes over here. And it's such a wonderful little spot. And we need to do a better job on our end at raising the profile. So we're right there. If you ever hear Casa Sculptera, reach out to me and just say, hey, I got an appointment at Sculptera, I got an appointment at Casa, just say, can I come in? Now I will say it's a little bit harder with me because it's literally me during the week. It's literally me. There's no one else during the week. I'm not going to ask you to taste Mauricio. My Spanish is about as good as his English, but we make it work. He's amazing. He is my most favorite person in the world. Don't get me wrong. He's an amazing. He was voted the Paso Robles Vineyard Manager of the Year last year, and rightfully so. On the weekends, you're going to get Ron over there too. Ideally, if he stops going out of town every now and then. It's such an amazing spot just to come out and just take it easy and not feel pressure to join the club, buy wine, or have to leave.
So your first official vintage at Dresser was which year?
So I call it 19. I did a bunch of work on the 18. So 18 to me was the year that I came in here. The Gelfands basically said, we're going to hang out and play golf in Palm Desert, but we're figuring out some stuff. Can you drive up there and go do X, Y, Z on the wines? In 19, we had moved up here full time. We were down in SoCal at the time. So 19, we moved up here, made all the decisions on those. And we did one more year of Gelfand. So you'll see the 19 still say Gelfand. It just said, we're fortunate that 90% of our wine gets consumed by our wine club. We've got about 650 club members that take up most all of our wine. So it's a little bit of a challenge to make that transition, full stop and go straight to Dresser. But the 19s were mine, the 20s are mine too.
And you've got a pretty diverse lineup of wines already for being that, with 2 vintages in.
Yeah.
What all are you growing on your estate?
Yeah, so we're 25 acres here, half are planted. Normally, let's say 12 acres planted, maybe 2 varietals.
We're losing your audio a little bit, Kory. I don't know if you got away from the microphone.
Yeah, there's a hum.
How about now? Is it better?
Yeah, better. Yeah, good.
So we grow Cab, Syrah, Petit Syrah, Zin, Malbec, Tempranillo, Sangiovese. I brought in some Merlot, some Cab Franc, some other Syrahs, some other Cab too from some people last year. This year, we're going to bring in some Merlot, some Cab, and Viognier from a neighbor as well. So out of that, those 7 varietals we grow here, basically we make about 12 to 15 different wines each year. We're going to there's some things. So Ron and another buddy of mine do all the blending with me. So until yesterday, we've been doing all the new blends. So it's kind of, if you see Ron and Craig and I doing the work on the blends, you might question everything when you drink our wine. But I think we do a wonderful job. I've found really good people that have great palates overall. But we'll do. We're going to do some other changes here in the next year as well. But we do about 12 to 15 different wines off our property.
Wow.
I have two questions. How many acres are planted and that hum is back? And number two is, how many cases are you producing each year?
Yeah, we're shy of, like, it's 11.83 acres planted of our 25 acres. We should actually be getting 2,500 cases from there. Responsibly grown grapes, that's about 2.5 to 3 tons per acre. And that's kind of where you want to be max. If you got somebody that's growing 4, 5, 6 tons per acre, you're gonna get some watered down wine for sure. So for us, I would like to be closer to 2,500. Last year, we were 1,350. So if anybody doesn't believe in climate change, let me tell you about how much it is, or how much it affects everything right now. So we are literally about 50%, 60% of what we should be. And that's not the worst at the same time too. When you do 1,350 cases on a 25 ton, or sorry, 1,350, yeah, 1,350 cases on a property that should do 2,500 cases. The good thing about that is there is some concentration that's going into those grapes that are just no other. And I think that's why you're going to see some wonderful 2020 and now 2021 wines coming from people, because we're all really low right now. And there's a fight to get grapes. And thank God that we have, some wonderful grapes being grown on our property. I'm also replanting a lot of our vineyard too. So my mentors plan before me was just to let the grapes all go to hell and just go away. And so I've had to kind of make up for that a little bit for sure. But I'm happy to have a little bit of a lower production, but I would like to be close to that 2,000 number.
So we're in harvest season. Have you started yet?
No, I mean, yes, prepping, but I have no grapes in here right now. It's been crazy. So there's, I'm a little nervous. We're making some pretty crazy decisions right now with the heat that's here right now. My Viognier won't come in until next Tuesday or Thursday. And that blows my mind. We're checking grapes tomorrow. We checked them 2 days ago. We're going to check our Syrah and Tempranillo. Those are the first two that typically come in. We're going to check them again in the morning. My guess is we're going to pick on Saturday, maybe Sunday night. And we pick really late at night when everything's cooler, so they can kind of, take it easy and recover from being ripped away from their lifeline.
Is this heat wave causing any curveballs for harvest?
Nothing but.
Yeah.
Nothing but curveballs. Even our vineyard manager who's been doing it for 25 years through Napa and down here, who's he manages about 15 different, as a consultant, 15 different vineyards, 18 different vineyards, I think right now. It's all over the place. There's some people's cabs that are ready a week ago or getting ready to be ready. And he's looking at mine, he's like, no, you're good. Yours are gonna still keep on going until, early October, which is still early. It's a crazy game. It's a tough game too, because if you don't pick at the right time, you're going to be kind of screwed. You're going to have a sugar wine, and that's not what anybody else is necessarily going unless you're trying to make a port.
It feels like the scariest time of year for me if I was a winemaker.
It's nauseating, very nauseating, because you're making a guess, and the way, I don't know if you guys know how we pick. We go through and throughout the different rows of grapes, and like on one row, we'll pull a cluster from one plant, another one, and another one all the way up. So it might be a cluster off of 75 yards of grapes, and you're just hoping that's an accurate example. And in fact, we did that a week ago with our Syrah during the last heat wave before the cool down happened before this one. And everything came in at 24.9 bricks. And for me, I'm like, oh, that's great. We got like a few days ago. I'm going to hit my number. And then we went through and chose from those similar plants, and we were just shy of 24 2 days ago. And so, it just shows you what heat can do. So now we're going to have to mitigate, because it wasn't right to pick then. We're going to have to mitigate the heat wave that's here now, and it's going to be here until next Wednesday. And then everything drops down to our Thursday. Everything drops down to like mid 80s, which is perfect right now. And so I got to hope that we have some, ubiquitous between all the grapes that will make sense for the numbers overall. This is a rough go. This is tough for a lot of people. And I don't get to make the call on some of my grapes. All the ones on my property I do, but Still Waters basically says, here's what I want you to do. It makes my life easier, and I'm going to have to mitigate okay, a Viognier coming at 24 and 25, that's not what I want. But I'm gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, boy, better you than me. That makes me nervous. So I've talked to numerous winemakers that state selling wine is the hardest part of the business. You come from wine from kind of a less traditional route, not the Cal Poly, UC Davis. Does your experience in sales and marketing make selling wine a little bit easier, or is it just a difficult part of the industry, like until you reach a threshold where you can hire a sales and marketing team?
It's like you wrote that question before you brought it to me. Yes, it does. So that is very, very much the most hard part of the industry, I think, for sure. But it's the one part that I understand, how to sell something to somebody. I think I do a good job at. And I also realized when I was just a wine lover and not making wine, where we fell short, or where the wine community fell short in the community, which was, here's your 4 wines you're going to taste. That's it. Sorry, you're not going to do it. And also, here's Joe Schmo who just graduated from college and is going to pour for you. And there are some wonderful kids out there that are doing that. What I realized for the volume of wine that we do here, where we fell short, was just being available and being personable, and having the opportunity to listen to you. If somebody comes to me and says that they like, so Ron and I never put Tempranillo or Malbec on our initial tasting list. It's rare that we do it. I don't have a lot of it, but it's rare that we do it because Malbec especially is a very polarizing grape. But as I sit down, or we sit down and we go through and talk to somebody, and we realize, like, they've been to Chile and they want to try this. They want to do a Malbec, or they've been to Spain. Maybe they really will enjoy a Tempranillo. We'll convert, or we'll adjust quickly and kind of go into that angle to do this. Most wineries anywhere, I think they just say, that's it. This is what you're doing. Thanks for coming. So sales has always been about how do you customize the product and the experience to the consumer. And wine has always been like, this is what I got. I'll see you later. And Paso does a much better job than most people, I think, in being personable. But like most wine regions, we don't do a great job at just saying, like, okay, look, I chose Petit Syrah, Cab, a couple of blends. I chose, this and that, whatever. You don't like big, bold wines. So I'm not the right fit for you, but I've got something I do on the side. So why don't we try those to see if those fit for you, and you adjust the experience for them. And there's not a lot of people that really do that. So sales is very hard, no matter what it is. It's really hard in the industry, wine industry too. I don't have anybody to lean on from that side, but that's what I did for 20 plus years. On the winemaking side, I could call up Guillaume, or I could call Chris at Everly, I could call whoever, and just say, like, this is going wonky. What's happening here? What's the chemistry here? What should I do? You can't get that from a salesperson per se, because they don't know your product and they don't know your experience. So the sales side is easier. The one difficult part that I've found for sure is I'm a little anal about the wines I want to have out there and release. And so having to sit on a wine for a year sucks, because I want it to be the level that I want it to be. It's tough. So now I got my carrying costs. If I don't bottle it, I've got my barrel costs, meaning I got to figure out, I got to rack it a couple times. I got to, do all the stuff I do to make sure it stays healthy. That's tough. That's a really tough thing to do. And then figure out, like, what was my time and cost, and how do I explain that to the consumer? Like, I'm sorry, but my reserves are going to be 5% more expensive because, it took me another 12 to 15 months of freaking out and making sure that the wine was right, and, take it to other people to taste and get their perspectives. So the winemaking side is still very, very difficult, but 2 + 2 is always 4. Within wine making, there's sometimes a couple different ways to get to 4, but you always get to 4. The sales side is, do you understand your customer or do you not? Or do you care about your customer or do you not? Are you paying attention to the fact there's 300 different wineries here? Do you realize that you can't drive on Lene Road where we are and there's no signage? And our directions, typically, if you follow your phone, take you on crappy dirt roads. And so now you got some people that had to take some off-roading experiences. If you don't know where to go, how do you mitigate somebody that drove a Tesla and took the bumpy road to get here as opposed to the paved roads. So there's always little nuances that you got to pay attention to on the sales side. And, you know, Ron's a long-time sales exec. I've done it for a long time too. And I think we do a really good job at just listening to and understanding who the customer is. So for us, it's easier. It's probably the harder part of all wine for sure. Make great wine, but if nobody knows, and if you're fighting, like I'm fighting, like I haven't taken my wines to get scored yet because I'm freaking out about it. It just makes me uncomfortable. You know, our wines, making it still the same style as before for, you know, the first like 8 years, you know, my mentor took them to different competitions that got massive scores on them. There's nothing different that I'm doing except for I'm doing it better, I think, because I'm choosing better barrels. I'm aging it differently, but like in the process is the process. And I still am very nervous about putting them out there because I'm gonna have to deal with that if somebody that day decides that they didn't like my Syrah, and they're wrong. It's wonderful. That day they don't like it. I'm kind of, well, crap. How do I mitigate that now and say, oh, do you know what James Suckling tasted that day? I don't know. He was wrong. I can't fight that. So it's a challenge. And I think that kind of lends itself to wine is subjective. And also one of the reasons why I enjoy doing our tastings, because it's totally fine if you don't like Zin. I am going to sneak a Zin in on you on our tasting. It's going to happen whether you know it or not. But you can come and say, I hate Zin. But we'll figure out the right path for wines that you like. And not a lot of people are going to do that. And that's the part that I think I enjoy the most because it's easy.
I got a great segue into that. I got a question for you, Kory. Zin has dropped in production in Paso immensely. And that was the region, basically the region grew up on Zin. Why has there been such a shift away from it?
Yeah, it's almost not even the shift away from Zin. That's a big part of it, but it's a shift away from, I hate, this is one of the things I hate about wine. I hate when people say a wine is elegant versus bold. I think that's a very derogatory term for a wine. It frustrates me, I think, because just because a wine is smooth but bold doesn't mean it's not a wonderful wine. Elegant is a cover up for a light style wine. And I've had a lot of crappy light style wines, but I have a lot of really good ones too. And I think what's happening is Paso's known for big, bold Zins, right? Just massive in your face Zins. I think a lot of people just not a lot of people, the big kids that own vineyards here, Constellation Treasury, Gallo, they have a lot of land here too. The 3 top wine companies in the world that own 99% of wine in the world. Those 3, everywhere, not just here, but everywhere. They follow the market for sure, or they help drive the market too. And they, back in 10, 15, 20, 15 or 20, 30 years ago, if you had a big, bold wine, it would score massive in theory. And then that's changed over time because palates have changed and new styles have come about. And I think people have given Zin a bit of a bad name, but there are really good Zins out there that are not 18%, 17%. We've dialed our alcohol back in our wines a ton. My Malbec ended up being 13.7 for my 2019. And that's unheard of for here, but it's a beautiful floral, bold wine in its own right. And my Zins are no longer 18%, 17% either. I don't think we all want massive, sugar bombs per se, but you can make amazing, amazing wines when they're still 14%, even sub 14 on some level. And it has to do with a bunch of different factors in there. But Zin gets a bad, rap, just like Merlot did because of the movie. But for us, I think a lot of people think of Franzia, right? Like it's white Zin, which saved the wine industry in the 70s. A whole other story there too. But there's something wonderful about Zin. I've even contemplated, can I just change the name of Zin to something else? Even if it might be 100% Zin, but it's Ron's blend.
It's Primitivo.
What's that?
It's Primitivo.
Well, and so we have Primitivo here too, which there is some difference in there too, for sure, but not a lot, but it's Italian for Zin.
the last 10 years, it's been a precipitous drop from Zin. And Lenny Colodo, I used to buy the cherry red. They're down to giving their members one bottle. I mean, that's how low they've gone. You know, that's one of my favorites. And I love your Zin too. I'm just saying that it's just like you can't even find it barely. What's the percentage is growing now? It's low.
It's way low. It's definitely got ripped out for sure. For me, I'm not going away from Zin. It's what I first started doing. That's what our Kaia Zin is, which there was a member, and I apologize who it was. Steve, it was you. I'm not sure, but it was somebody was opened up the 2020 Kaia Zin, named after our daughter, which is night and day. There you go, Brian. Thank you. Night and day different because of like it's the soil, and there's a massive eucalyptus tree there. There's some cool things you can do with Zin. And it's a hard grape to make into wine because it's very fickle. Even for us, 1/3 of our Zin always fights to get ripe. The other 2/3 I'm balancing to be ripe, super ripe, or where I want it to be to manage that difference there. Like all things, it's cyclical though, like fashion, like everything else too. I'm not looking to recreate the wheel, and Zin is not going to go away. I just don't see it going away by any means. You can call it Primitivo, you could call it anything else. You could blend it into like the Prisoner, which is still one of the most high-selling wine, and it's mostly Zin. We're always going to have a Zin for sure.
Kory, we're getting tight on time, so before we lose anybody, I want to have you talk a little bit about your wine club. And I know you just did this really cool trip through mostly Portugal. I don't know if Spain was part of the tour or that was your part of it. But for those on the call, talk a little bit about your wine club, what the options are there, and some of the cool things that you do that are unique that a lot of other wine clubs don't do.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say a couple things. One, our wine club, aptly named right now 2468. That number correlates to the number of bottles you get 3 times a year. So if you're a 2-bottle member, you get 6 bottles a year, 4, 12, 6, 18, 8, 24. That's going to change next year because we do 3 shipments, and it's taxing to do 3 shipments on us and you as club members. We're going to do 2, and the difference between each club is the discount you get off of wines, and also like the 8 bottlers get to choose whatever they want, whenever they want. Like, doesn't matter, you choose whatever vintage. If I've got to sell, you get to choose it. The 6 bottlers get to choose their fall shipment and have full customization. The other 2 are kind of like, I don't have a lot of wine, so I have to manage that a little bit. I'd say like one of the things I'm trying to do this year too is doing half bottles to ship out to people so that they can go and do their own little tasting with half bottles. Just to be fair too, it doesn't make the wine a lot cheaper. The only thing that's cheaper is the amount of wine that goes in there. The bottle stays the same, the label cost stays the same, the corks and foils, everything stays the same, which is like nauseating to me. But the amount of wine does help me bring that cost down a little bit, but it's a way to taste through a lot of our wines.
You're talking about 350s?
375.
375s, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the thing would be doing like Cab, Syrah, Cab, the SFR. I have a wine called Shitface Red for people that are still here, aptly named SFR. There's a great story behind it, but we call it SFR. There you go. Thanks, Irene. We do the Lajure, probably Zin, and a couple others too, that we would do just a couple 100 bottles of each so that we could send it out to people, because one of the most asinine things about the wine industry is for you to experience me, which I am 80% of the industry, meaning 80% of the industry does 5,000 cases or less. You have to come find me, or somebody has to tell you about me. And so my thinking is there a way for me to get my wines to you if you're in North Carolina or New York or Florida or whatever, and you can taste those without having to commit to a full bottle that makes sense financially? I would love to do that. Mike, tell Byron, thank you for ordering a case of the 19 Zin. So he just ordered like a full case of that, which was awesome because I have 2 cases left. So
Byron did, huh?
Kory,
Yep.
Kory, real quick, the 375s, I don't see those on your website. How do people find those?
Yeah, so we're I think I just saw the email come through a little bit ago from my bottle supplier. I actually have a few hundred of them that we used to do. We used to do a port and a late harvest cab as well. Since our yield is so low, I have a vintage I'm going to release probably in a year or two of those. So I have some left over. So I'm just waiting for the cost for my barrels or bottle supplier. So we bottle in January every year. So that'll come out probably in February.
Got it. Unfortunately, none for November's event.
No, but I have some ideas about how I'm going to do that though. Although I got a bunch of 375s in the wine cellar at that house that I want to go away. So
Nice.
That's a unique. I don't know too many have gone by wineries that have are I call them splits, but
yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
nice.
that's super
But
cool.
for everybody that gets an opportunity to come see us in person, please do. We're very in person or a very personal in person, just hanging out with you. I like to take a lot of time. Usually it's going to take 2 hours for a tasting with us because it's so personal. Cindy K, it's going to be November 19th. It'll be listed eventually, not yet though. Mike's going to help us drive that one. Saw the question there in the chat box. But would love for people to come and experience us. I'm happy if you reach out to me too and say, where should I go? I'm not going to tell you Dow and Justin, but I will say there are wonderful wineries that I can support for you to come here. And I also will say thank you to Dow for doing all of my broader marketing for me as well, because they do a wonderful job and telling people to come to Paso because they built a wonderful facility. So it's them that's a big part of why people come here, and they come and say, I went to Dow and Justin, it was nice and all, but as a cog in the wheel, where can I go to have that personal experience? You come to us, you come to Rasmussen, you go to Brecken, you go to Paso Terre, you go to Dirk, you go to all these different people, you go to Absolution, you go to these different people that are going to be there hands-on with you.
Well, that's a fresh approach. No, I really appreciate that because we have a lot, well, I don't need to go into that, but Dow is Dow, and they do bring people to the region, and
They do. Their market value is great.
I like their wines. I'm not going to be ashamed of saying I don't like them, and I do.
Look, I was a wine club member until early this year, and I did because being from the Midwest, nobody knows where Paso is, so it was a great place to take people. And then I realized, hold on, we got this winery. You could actually go and sit in our northeast corner or northwest corner, have these same kind of Dow views that we've kind of built out for people too. But I do appreciate everything they've done, for the region. They're big kids. They played a different market. That's not who we're going to be. And I would also say, get ready for Dow to be bought and become patrimony 100%. That's it. So it's going to be something. I think it's going to happen. Totally just meet the. I can't imagine they won't. They're startup guys. They're tech guys with a lot more money than I ever had. They built Dow and did a great job, and that's why they're pouring this money, I think, into patrimony. It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah,
they're doing a great job for Paso. Thank God they're doing what they're doing and spending the money they're doing. But go see them and then come sit down with me.
well, this forum was really, in our minds, was for the smaller producers, because those are the places I've always enjoyed going to. I love Dow. I went in the door when they hadn't even finished the tasting room yet, but I like the wine. But the small producers is what I've always found what I call the holy grails. And but if Daniel Dow wanted to come on here, we probably wouldn't turn him down.
No. And remember, they're buying grapes from folks like me and others. Literally, they bought acres and acres or tons and tons of grapes from our neighbors. They buy grapes from us. Not for me, I don't sell my grapes, but they buy grapes from the east side. So they realize the value of the wines that they're doing come from our side. That's why they've invested.
I have to say, you've given us so much information. It's so fascinating about the business that we don't. Sometimes we get some, but I like the the nuts and bolts part of that. Thank you very much for sharing all that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I second that. Oh, sorry, Kory, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Jason. No, I thanks to both of you guys for letting me do this. And Mike and Chris have been wine club members for a long time, for sure. I remember hosting Mike up the house before we even had it ready to go. And I appreciate the opportunity to continue that relationship for sure. But for those that are looking to come to like a very unique experience, like I know that just flat out what we're doing on November 19th with the Fanatics is way different than anybody else has done. And it's a learning lesson for sure, what we're going to do, what you guys are going to do. And I'm happy to be a small little part for sure. But this is going to be really fun to get to meet some small kids that are, in a big market and I think doing a good job. So thank you for letting me be a part of it. Thanks for buying a bunch of wine from us, Mike and Chris. I appreciate that too.
I'm glad it all came together, and we'll get the details out to everybody in this short time.
Kory, thank you for the time. Everybody that jumped on, thank you for joining us. I know we ran a little bit long tonight, but I appreciate your patience. And Kory, as Mike said, a lot of fun conversation and super interesting insights. So thank you for the time and everything you shared with us.
Great event, Kory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
And
It was fun.
anybody has some questions and they want to hang for just a few, that's fine too.
I'm
I'll
happy
tell
to
you
stick
more
around.
about everything. What's that, Kory?
I'm happy to stick around if anybody has questions, and I'm always happy to host people here too.
Awesome. So
Thank
anybody
you very
else-
much. I'll be there in 2 weeks, so I'll see you then.
I'm excited.
I don't know your name, but JCH, where are you
Julie.
from? Julia.
I'm in Orange County, near you probably.
Oh, nice.
So my husband's Mark. He's really on the page. Mark DeBarro.
Oh, Mark DeBarro, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know everybody, there's 18,000.
I know it's impossible, I'm sure.
I know.
Thank you though. Very nice.
Julie Suarez, where are you from?
She's muted.
You're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm from San Pedro,
Oh, okay,
California,
great.
close by.
We have some new faces tonight. That's why I was asking. I know the Perlmans, the Tinkers. Brian James was on earlier. Yeah, I know they're semi-regulars. Anybody have any questions about anything? And yes,
I got one for Kory. Kory, I see behind you. Is that your little tasting room there that's kind of behind you there with the couches?
Kind of. This is our barrel room. So it's hot as crap here. So normally we usually do our tastings just outside like in front of me, about 20, 30 yards away outside underneath oak trees, looking up into the vineyard. It's beautiful. It's hot as crap. So
Better to wait until the weather cools down a little bit, right?
That's right. So we could at least be at like 72 to 75, worst case scenario in here in the barrel room. It's going to get a little dicey as grapes come in for sure. So we got to get through that. Everything's going to be wonderful after that.
Yeah, we're going up this weekend and I've already rearranged everything around where we are indoor doing tastings everywhere. So I got lucky.
Shoot me a note. Something falls through. Just go on the website. Every email and phone number basically goes to me. So you never know. We saw a bunch of different things. Kay was talking about this too. A bunch of events in places that shut things down because it's going to be out of control.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
I think I can say
Christina.
that November 19th, the weather will be good though.
Never know.
Anybody else?
No, this was great. Thank you guys for doing this. Really good.
Who am I hearing from? Oh, is that Audrey?
That was fun. I stay quiet most of the call, you know that.
I
She's
know.
camera shy.
They live near me too, over in Laguna Miguel, so.
Yep.
We've been to their home for a wine tasting party. We're really, really fun.
Love to do that again.
I will throw out there too, one of the things that we are launching this year is Dresser on the Road. And so most of our wine club, ironically enough, is in SoCal. We have, 30 different states that we have club members in. But in California, 70% of our California club members are all Huntington down to San Diego.
Yep.
So once I can get through harvest, we're looking to find folks that want to host us down there. We'll bring wine. I hope we bring 20, 30 people just for us to do in-person tastings and just take
it's
it
well
home.
down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to host one.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
That'd be fun. Just an easy way for us to expose our wines. And that's one of the things I've learned is the reason why we're successful is our wine club members that have shared our wines with other folks. And that's worked out really nicely for us. And I want to continue that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'd be happy to do it.
Awesome. Well, let's stay in touch for sure. But thank you very much for joining, guys. It's been fun. Don't hesitate.
Thank you,
to-
everybody.
Thanks, you
All
guys.
right,
Thanks.
thank you all.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Thanks. Jason.
Have a good evening, and the party information will come out shortly. Thank you.
Great job.
Bye,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Bye, Kory. Thanks again.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
See y'all.
Take care. Bye.